Eyes down, looking, here we go. This is my life. It's been a really weird journey, sort of digging out my archive and forgetting people, remembering situations or whatever. But so it goes chronologically around the room, as you probably guessed. So from when I was born, or whatever, my mum and dad, my little exhibition at school, me being a mod, the first album I ever bought, the first real concert I ever went to with Frank Zappa. Sorry. And this is what it's been like for me. It's been like jumping all over the place. So I went to Harrowby Secondary Modern School, much to the disappointment of my father, because he went to the Crichton, and it was all that grammar school sort of situation then. So I was a big disappointment to him. So when I was at school, I hated school. It was just full of thugs. You were in fights all the time. And then suddenly in about the fourth year, I think it was, a guy called Jeff Ayers came from teacher training, and Jeff was hip. He wore smart suits, jackets. He was kind of like a hipster, you'd call it today. And when I saw when he came to the school, I just went, I want a bit of that. I want to look as cool as him. And so he used to play the Supremes, the Beatles, you know, dance set record player in the art room, and I just went, that's what I want for the rest of my life. So this is me, my one-man art show at school. And so I became a mod, basically. And this is me dancing with P.P. Arnold. There used to be the best club in Carlisle, in Harrowby, on my council estate. A guy called Les Layton, who's on stage there. He opened up this massive club, and it was the best club in the world. It had 3 floors. And everybody who knows it. So I used to buy my 2-piece mohair suits from Jackson's Tailors at the extortionate price of £13.10. And this is me as a mod. We used to go to the Twisted Wheel in Manchester and Blackpool. And so Jeff introduced me to jazz, soul and all that. So this is the very first album I bought, Thelonious Monk, from the bargain basement bin in Woolworths. The only reason I bought it was I thought he looked really cool. And then when I played it, I went, whoa. Lulu's back in, I don't know if anybody knows Thelonious Monk. Lulu's back in town, but it's a fabulous thing. Anyway, so I ended up going to art school. I used to do Saturday classes at the art school, and we had some wonderful inspirational teachers there. So I went to art school, got involved with people there. There's a guy who's was my best friend at the time, maybe he still is, I don't know. So we decided to put a concert on in Carlisle with Michael Chapman and Kevin Ayers, who's ex-Soft Machine. And in that band, there was a guy called David Bedford, who became really famous. So we put that gig on, and we lost money because nobody turned up. But John went on, Don James, who was involved at that time, went on to do another gig when he didn't get into art school, but I got in, sort of left Carlisle, and he stayed in, he's from Whitehall, but stayed in Carlisle and put another gig on, because one of the band, the whole world said, I've got this other band coming across, from Ireland. If you want to put a gig on with them, we'll do that. And so he put the gig on, and again, I think they made £1 each, and that band was called Thin Lizzy. And the week after, Whiskey in the Jar hit the charts, so he could have made a load of money. Anyway, that's enough. So this is me at art school. This is the pencil from Carlisle College of Art and Design. This is us doing performance work in Carlisle. This is where I got introduced to Joseph Boyce. We used to go to Edinburgh to the exhibitions up there. I got introduced to Joseph Boyce and Ricky DeMarco and the DeMarco project up in Trent. I also used to work. Jerry, you had an opinion on this gun, what it is?
Well, I presume it's a rivet gun, isn't it?
No, my father was in the poultry industry, right? And this is for sexing chickens.
Can you describe how that works?
It goes like this, it goes.
Where did it hit them? There.
Oh. So this is me. This is from 71, 75. The Velvet Underground at my freshest wall. Can you imagine that? With a backup of Slade. That's a little man. That's a massive mix. Yeah, so these are some of the drawings that I did at college about ceramics or whatever. And these are some of the bands I got introduced to across the Velvet Underground. United States of America, Pete Atkin, because Clive James, I don't know if anybody knows Pete Atkin, and Clive James, the journalist, writes all the lyrics, fantastic. So I did my thesis on Captain America. It's a bit cracking. That's my thesis on Captain America. Going through that, then this is my failure letter not getting into the Royal College of Art, because I had a deal with my mate, so-called mate at the time, called Gordon Young, who's now a big public artist. You know Gordon? He did the Morecambe. Does anybody know Morecambe Pier? He did that, like that. So we fell out then. And this is a badge that he created, a work of art by Gordon Young. Can't see it. So anyway, moving on to teaching at Cumbria again, teaching at Carlisle. So it was 75, and then I used to run the arts halls because the students would kind of crap at them. So I started running the arts halls, and so in 77, punk was kind of happening. So I had the running the arts halls of called theme of punk, whatever, and some of the. This is Trevor Layton, who's quite a famous photographer at the moment, but now at the time, or became a thing. So these were graphic design students who were putting together a band, so I joined in with them, and we started doing silly stuff together. And so I started doing reviews. This is Gus Skidmark, equalled up with the Ramones. These are some guys from Ireland. This was I was still involved in the soul and the jazz funk scene, or whatever you want to call it. So this was a synopsis for a program that we put together for TV. I'm just showing you things that I got involved with. I was into black music, so I was DJing. We started the Boulevard Club. Which is a jazz funk scene, because I was going down to the Highland room of the Blackpool Mecca. I remember the first time the Highland room was on the first floor of Tiffany's in Blackpool. I remember walking the corridor and hearing this sound. Well, it wasn't just funk, it was funk. And walking along the corridor and this boom, 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 boom. Walked in the room, the whole room was dancing. So I just started dancing. At the end of the night, my feet were bleeding. So I used to, so we got into doing the club. And this is Kev Edwards, my mate. The record shop in Manchester at the time was a place called Spinning Records. And Kev was the manager there. So he sold me most of my tunes. So then I gigged at various places, gone into African Bambata, Renegades of Funk. This is our playlist from the Boulevard Club. So we used to put these out. So we started because I used to do the arts balls. There was a guy. There was a Chinese guy who bought an old. Don't know if anybody knows Olivetti typewriters. They were dead trendy designers, and they built these special. I've forgotten the name of them. These special buildings, Italian design. So they bought that. So I ran a gig there with Tony Chung, the Chinese guy. And so we started running the Boulevard nights and getting lots of responses. Then in 1980, so this is college, and in I went to university with on an MA with a Japanese guy called Toshinobu Takamitsu, and he was a papercraft designer, and we made stuff together. I'll talk you through this later. So we made stuff together, and when you're the firstborn son in Japan, you have to stop doing what, and your father dies, you have to stop doing what you do and go and look after the family. So this happened to Mitsu. Mitsu was working in a place called Fukuoka. My father couldn't say that word like Fukuoka. But he was actually from Kumamoto. And so he went back home, and his mother and father were farmers, and they had 3 fields. One field they kept for growing rice, and his mother planted rice and growing rice. The other one, he built this place. Second one, he built a house, a traditional Japanese house that's in here. And the third one was this, what he called open studio, which had the glass blowing in the bottom here. His wife was a weaver, and so she was on the top floor. And he also was a silversmith, so it became a little complex. So I went across in 1979-80, to help him set this up. We did that, came back. I come back, I'd had a studio in Carlisle with a girl called Jane McAllister. And Jane McAllister was going out with Ricky DeMarco at the time. And Ricky DeMarco in 1980, as part of the Edinburgh Festival, was a circumnavigation of Britain. So I was cutting out badges for this thing. And so I bought a few days. It was full of artists. Artists would come and go on the boat from all over the world. So anyway, I ended up in Dublin. Then into Belfast, into Warren Point, and then I met this artist, John Carson, who's a professor in the States, and I've spoken to him since about this. And I remember my first pint of Guinness. We pulled in, this is the Marquez, the sailing bark that we were on, and we came into Warren Point, and it was about 11:30 at night, and I was friendly with these two American artists at the time. And we got off the boat, and because it was intense on the boat with conversations with Ricky and all, and we were looking to go to a pub. So we walked across to the gate, dock gate in Warren Point, and I said to the guy, "Is there a pub around here where we can get a drink?" And he says, "Hey, see that door over there? Go there." And it's just this front door with barbed wire across the top, and I'm thinking. So we go across there, knock on the door, no answer. Knock on the door again, no answer. Just about to go away, this guy comes along, batters on the door, shouting down the letterbox. Somebody comes, opens the door, is in. I go, "Excuse me, the guy over the dock gate says I can get a drink here." I said, "Are you members?" Not with an accent like this. "Oh, okay, come in." And we walked along this, I tried to find this place, it doesn't exist. We walked along this corridor, it's powered up with chairs, it was like a community centre or something. Walked into this bar, banging, it was banging, yeah, it was banging, it was brilliant. And we got out there about 5 o'clock in the morning. So this is my experience in Japan with Ultraman, which is like Superman in Japan. This is Mount Fuji. This is a glass blowing thing called a tick-tock, which they do in Japan, which is a very delicate way of blowing glass, which is what we were into. This guy, he's from Kumamoto Castle, and he used to make people laugh by doing this. So he's famous in Kumamoto. Yeah, so we met all these artists, and Ricky DeMarco again, blah blah blah. So I set up the glass blowing studio after I came back from Japan. So these are all the tools I used doing that, and these were all handmade by Ivan Smith, because studio glassmaking only really started in the 60s in England. It started in America, where I'm forgetting the name, sorry. The potters started thinking glass was a mystery. The secrets of glass were always a mystery. And the Venetians, people were killed if they spread the recipes of glass making or whatever. So it was quite a mystery. And then in the late 50s, 60s, Irwin Ice and people like that in America said, there were potters, and said, "Oh, let's do that. Let's just throw some glass in a pot and start making glass." And that's what they did. And then in the 70s, it came to the Royal College of Art, and that's my period of time. And so John Cook, my lecturer at the time, he was that first generation of English glassmakers. So I was one of the second generation. So John used to send us down to the V&A to do drawings of glasses, and we had a technician called Bill Heaton who was from Whitefire. He was a gaffer. Gaffer is a term for a master glassmaker. He was the gaffer at Whitefriars Glass, which is, if anybody knows anything about glass, an important company. So we used to do the drawings, come back, and Bill would make these. in response to our drawings, and then I was learning how to blow glass then. So then you start experimenting with stuff, so these are my experiments. Then, and those things there, I did a massive landscape of blobs like that and all that. This is free. And then Toshinobu Takamitsu comes and does postgrad with me at Leicester. And so we did these sculptures together, and I had a little exhibition in Nottingham. And these are based on the nuclear explosions in Japan at the wartime. Because when I was in Japan, we did these before I went to Japan. And talking to Mitsu's mother, Kumamoto is kind of between Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and talking to his mother about what happened then, she said the sky went red, and that was it. So we'd done these sculptures together before that experience. And this is the stuff that we made in Japan together. So this is this colour here. You can hear it's not lead crystal. This is Suntory whiskey bottles. And this is beer bottles that we used to melt in that furnace there. Then come back, and this is my collection of whatever. We started off very crude, and there wasn't many studio glassmakers like us around at the time. But we hit it on a kind of wave of interest in studio glass. So some of the early stuff that I made was pretty. I'm an okay glass blower. I'm not brilliant, but I'm good. And so we used to go to Harrogate. We did all the trade fairs as craftspeople do, selling your wares or whatever. And we used to go down to Harrogate. And what we got it down to in the end was 6 objects in 6 different colours. That became our range. And then people say, can I see your glass? And I go, well, it's my glass, but this was to sell so I could make more glass. So that was the whole thing around that. Making a living as a craftsperson is a really hard thing. So once I found that out, I needed a job, so I went back to teaching at Carlisle. And then, as people from the education world, we were starting to cut down on stuff, so on staff, whatever. So I ended up getting a job as education officer at the Harris Museum and Art Gallery in Preston for 2-3 days a week. And that's where I met Laverna Hamid, who won the Turner Prize. So I became friendly with her in Preston and some of the other lecturers. And then I also got a job in a maximum security prison called Garth. There's 2 prisons near Leyland called Garth and Weymouth. Garth is a Cat B maximum security prison. Weymouth is a sex offenders prison basically. So I ran a foundation course in those 2 prisons, and these are some of my friends. Being an education officer at the Harris gave me the freedom to do stuff, and so this I did a big exhibition with what was Preston Poly at the time. These students from Preston Poly came into the prison, worked with the guys. This is Alfie. Alfie is was trying to get this place in. Alfie had been on the street since he was 13. Well educated, clever, the cleverest bloke I've ever met, to be honest. But he's an armed robber and drug dealer. And so if you have to take time to watch this video called "Living in the Fire," so this is Jimmy, armed robber from Manchester. He wanted me to show this filled up with piss with a turd floating in it, because that's how he was at that time. But this is, if you watch this film, I won't do it now, but if you get the chance to watch this film, it's about what it feels like in prison, what it is like in prison. And from my point of view, this is so real. The guys are so honest. It was a Manchester TV crew came in. So the stuff here, this is what you get when you go into prison. These are the phone cards, or the conversations on. I wanted to do a big installation of the phone cards.
Trying not to give us any individuality.
This is Julie Wayne.
Trying to force us all to wear the same clothes. There's a strict regime and take away your personal identity, especially if it's continuing for a long period of time. You know what I mean? You want you all wearing this to come to education or whatever.
You get £3 to go into education. You get £7 to go into the workshops. So they're not encouraging education in prisons. This is Alfie.
Robert, is that £3 a week or like £3 a month? A year?
£3 a week.
So they don't want to do the workshop to get more wages. And while we're in the workshop, we're helping them by, making no nonsense. I think it's just the sole purpose of giving you more money is to give you an incentive to get you into the workshops and deter you away from education.
That's sorry, I'll knock that off. But yeah, if anybody's interested, we'll take time. But and this is really between us. This is this day. So I got Alfie out of prison for a day, right? And so we film it, and during it, Alfie does a drug deal in a pub. Well, you see, he's already taken a joint out of the prison to have it in the car when I'm driving to the gig, and then he does a drug deal with the guy. In that, and there's also, I've set up a band in the prison. There's a guy called Polian. Big up, where's Max? Big up Polian. Who's played in Belfast.
Yeah.
He's the bass player with Gregory Isaacs. Blah blah blah. Who was the overie with again?
With Lee Scratch Perry.
Lee Scratch Perry. So I became friends. Of course I did. Become friends with these guys. Stayed friends and still friends with them. So yeah, that's the band practicing, and that's Alfie doing the drug deal, which nice stuff. This guy, do you remember those big video cameras where you had a separate? I used to have one of them in the prison. I got loads of videos of that thing, and one day the camera went missing. In prison, the camera goes, and it's big. Right? And just before this guy left prison, he said, I have to admit, Robert, it was me who stole the camera. I said, how did you get it out? Codation was good at paper mache, so he made a paper mache sculpture around us, handed it out in prison. By the way, he was in for killing a guy. And I remember, I've opened up my story, but I remember him telling me the story about how he took an axe to a guy's face and saw his lips sliding down his arm.
Oh.
So you've got to be conscious that that's the environment you're in. Anyway, this is me from 97 to whatever. Got the job at the Arts Council. I'd been working at the House Museum, and then somebody approached me and said, there's a post at the Arts Council. You should, no. There's a post as a Lancashire Visual Arts Development Coordinator. So I did that job for a year, and then the job at South East Arts came up. So I moved down to Farnham in Surrey, working for the Arts Council in the South East. And 2000 was the year of the artist. I don't know if people remember that. And I hooked up with a guy called Robert Jacobs, who was a musician who's done a project underwater with school kids and all that. And because I've always been a DJ, we started to do these jamming sessions in Woking. He had a band, he had like a scratch band, jazz band. So we created this thing called Naked Sunday, which had a couple of scratch DJs, normal band, me playing percussion and DJing on decks. Meanwhile, I was involved in writing the National Craft Strategy and running Piers, Ports and People, the first major architectural conference in the southeast. And I was also involved with Villette Métiers d'Art, having meetings in the French Parliament, developing a network of craft towns and cities across France and Germany a little bit, Italy, whatever. So Naked Sunday started to get serious. So we ended up playing the London Jazz Festival. We were here in 2003, and the next band to follow us is called the Monk Liberation Front, bringing me back to the first record I bought.
Scary.
So these are the things that I shape, and people ask me if I'm a musician. No, I'm not. I'm just make noises like that.
Hurry up.
Yeah, so these are the things I've collected all the time and shaken in my life. And then
You met me.
This is the interesting bit.
Everybody relax.
So I get made redundant from the Arts Council in the big night of the long night, as I call it. And I split up with my partner, lose my house, ready to commit suicide. And then I walk into the Royal Festival Hall because it's my 60th birthday party coming up. I'm living in Richmond. I joined the Richmond Writers' Circle, which is what the poetry book's all about. I met Jerry and people, and I'm meeting the next colleague from, this is my version of our meeting. And I'm in the Royal Festival Hall, meeting a guy, and I devised a chat-up line with women called the Polar Bears. I don't know if any people know the Polar Bear Club.
Not yet.
I haven't done it as. So I'm in the Royal Festival Hall. I'm organising. I met loads of musicians and all that. And in Richmond, and I'm organising my 60th birthday party, and the wonderful Anthony walks. I can still see it now, to be honest. By the bar in the Royal Festival. So anyway, I chatted with her, and the end up here. She came to my party. Akasha played Glastonbury and stuff like that. I met people from Soul to Soul who sang at my 60th. It was the best 60th. You were there, Scarlett, weren't you?
Yeah, it was brilliant. Not as good as mine.
So yeah, and yeah. So then, well, some of the nice things of being involved in this is that when I work for the Arts Council, it's a privileged position because you can support artists to do stuff. And Anna Dimitri here, when I first met her, she said, nobody from the Arts Council is interested in my work. She said, well, I am, because it's about art and science. And so, you know, supported her through the Arts Council with grants. And so she did the first exhibition here for nothing. And now she's a superstar artist out there, like all around the world, working. And Alex May did the piece, The Art and Science of Linen, and that's where the linen story started. And this is the story that Anthony did for and then the next, and she's still coming back. She's used linen as a metaphor throughout that, so, you know, throughout the rest of her life. And this is from the field, which is at 2018, you know, at the Science Festival. And then one of the guys who taught me, Keith Walker, is a printer, as you can see, and the polar bears. There's the polar bear, the dancing polar bears. How I met Anthea. And then we run, people who know, we were lucky enough to get the funding together to run the Biennale. And there's someone's out on the first day. And this is my death wish list. This is the songs I want to play when I die. It lasts for 3.5 hours. And then we met the wonderful Jane McCann along this way. Sorry. I'm glad Jane's here, you know, because without Jane and her massive input to the Biennale, it wouldn't have happened. And we're still struggling now to try and keep it going, but it's hard work. But there's Jane, there's us. And yeah, thanks to Jane for being for meeting you through Trish, introducing us and all that. That's me.